Hello, good evening, everyone. It's been such a lovely Sunday here in Melbourne and such a great weekend across Australia. Of course, we saw all the protests that were happening, and I feel like we're definitely on the winning end of this. I feel like we've created so much momentum, and I think everyone who participated in any way, shape, or form, whether it was participating in attendance or just sending positive thoughts, I hope everyone feels very proud of Australia right now. We are actually leading the freedom movement based on numbers for ratio, population, etc. So I hope everyone feels very empowered from the weekend, and it'll be interesting to see the change. The media have obviously started actually recognizing the movement and the protests and legitimizing it and not calling it crazy names. And I think that's because it's so strong. No one can deny that it is absolutely necessary and real. So tonight is really exciting. We're having our first series of Together We Can Vote the Majors Out. Last week we had Together We Can Get Our Liberties Back with lots of advocates and organisations around Australia. But tonight is all about politics. So if you're not interested in politics, you probably don't want to watch this. But I think Australians are more involved in politics than ever before. And a show like this is really, really needed. Basically, you know, RDA has a large audience and platform. So I would like to give that platform to the minor parties that I believe have freedom at the forefront of their mission, and so that they can speak to you and tell you guys what they're about, what they're up to, and if you want to support them, what that would look like. RDA really is working as a platform to give them a voice. We don't plan on telling people who to vote for or who to support, but if we can give you the different options, you can decide for yourself, and that's what it's all about. We're all adults here, and I think that any seat is better with one of these minor parties than any of the majors. So that's what this series is all about. So thank you all for being here. And tonight we have, first up, we're going to have Ola Tunji, who's going to give us a bit of a poem all about unity. I thought it would be a really nice way to start the episode. Then we're going to have Rod Cullerton from the Great Australia Party, Michael O'Neill from Informed Medical Options Party, Glenn O'Rourke from Australian Federation Party, and Craig Kelly from United Australia Party. I am going to try and take questions at the end of each person's talk, but please bear with me. I'm alone here doing the broadcast, so I'm going to do the best I can. So we'll see how that goes. But now, without further ado, I'm going to bring on Ola Tunji to give a 2-minute poem, and I'm sure it's going to inspire all of us. Here you go. Take it away.
Polka dots. To those who can hear me, I say, do not despair. This torrid ineptitude of political quagmires that the world finds itself goose-stepping towards is merely the death throe of power's hungry hippo mentality consuming itself. The world does not need saving. We do. We are waking to the power of our voice, a power of choice, to extend a hand, a heart. If you can help just one soul, that's a start. We are not purse strings or puppets. We are the love-dub potential of every supernova. We are our own shining suns, pulsing rays of cosmic light across the infinite spaces that only seem to separate you and I. So go out there and stomp your feet in the early morning sun. Dance to welcome the day. Jackson Pollock that. Paint polka dots everywhere. And don't worry about the stairs. Don't succumb to the ne'er-do-wells. Don't shade your light just because others are afraid of their own. You have a gift. I mean, you are a gift. The future swims across the dreamscape of my mind, and there you are. Thank you.
Wow, what a great way to start the show before we get into the nitty-gritty of politics. So without further ado, thank you so much for that poem. It was truly inspiring and beautiful, very well spoken. So I'm going to bring on Rod Cullerton. You all know him, I'm sure, from GAP, Great Australia Party. He's going to tell us about what his party is up to. All right, Rod, the floor is yours.
Well, good evening, everyone, and thank you for giving us the opportunity to come on the show and have a chat. Currently, I'm up in Port Hedland. I attended a freedom march last night. It went very well. It was a beautiful night. I must say it's extremely hot up here. So why is Great Australian Party in the barrier, I guess, for this next up and coming election? It's in the barrier because it is now time that people in Australia understand their rights and freedoms are very much an inalienable right. And I talk on behalf of ourselves and the tribal sovereigns of this great nation. So we are up here having all Australians come together and walk as one under a Commonwealth mateship. Certainly going out and, I guess, expressing our law, and that is found in the Constitution Act, and why Australia must do what Britain did and come out. They had a Brexit. We must do the same. We must Aussexit and come back under our sovereignty so that our rights and freedoms can be upheld. And the legacy of our Anzacs and all servicemen and women who fought for this great nation, that we continue that through. They gave their lives up for our freedoms, and it is unacceptable that Australia can be, in a sense, apathetic. And I don't mean that in a bad way, because I was exactly the same, farming, but we're seeing businesses destroyed, families destroyed, and just the way of Australia destroyed. And Great Australian Party is not going to sit back and let that happen. So how do we go about making it real? I think it's become real. There's been a shot over the bow to all Australians, certainly with this COVID-19 and how state premiers, acting premiers, are going forward and basically not paying respect to the law, and certainly making mandates against people which require a contract, and trying to use state acts to enforce a procedure to have individuals come in as without consent, but basically coerce them by going through the employer to force requirements on an employee when that employer is bound under Commonwealth law, and they're trying to use state laws to the usurping powers of the Commonwealth, because we know that, because as a former federal senator, I'm very well versed on constitutional law. I have a great team, and the Corporations Act 2001, the states basically handed over all the powers back to the Commonwealth so that everything would be regulated under Commonwealth. So to say that they don't care and that they're using state laws to force a procedure against everyone's right, and of course Great Australian Party is about free choice. We don't take any position, but for the people that don't want to participate as a recipient to a trial, they have every right to decline that and not be forced by their employers. So this is where basically the state governments have gone too far, and this is what I've been saying since 2016. We must come back under the Commonwealth. A Commonwealth is our rights and freedoms. It is our law. Commonwealth is the legal definition to the power and the authority of the Australian people. There is no question, and we must pay respects to other so-called Australians, and that they are bound by their inalienable rights through their law, which is LORE or LAW, however the tribal nation wish to do that. And if we succumb to a parliament that is dictating terms, or an employer, we are then also losing our sovereignty. That's how the law looks at us. So I, as party leader, have made a commitment, warts and all, and I have stood up, and everything that I have done, despite what the government has done to me, has been according to law, and I will not buckle, and I will not set bad case precedents that will affect the rights of all Australians. I just won't do that. So I don't want to find that I went to the federal parliament and absorbed in the Constitution and the effects of federation without paying, just putting the Constitution to one side as a law, but the effects of federation, which made us a self-governing colony, which there are no borders internally. They are political limitation, and these state premiers only became states when we all agreed to come under the Commonwealth, and they basically are not under the Constitution. So technically they're trying to run us back as colonies. So I need to express what I learnt, and I'm going out on the front line as a party leader. I've got great candidates that are going to run for the federal election. We just want to play at the top end of town. We don't worry about the little league, you know, with the Tonka toy and the sandpit with these state premiers. I mean, as soon as you try to take something off them, they start squealing. And certainly chucking tissy fits and a dummy spit, but and that's not being disrespectful. That's just being truthful. So we need to play this at a top level. We need to come back for the restoration of the Commonwealth. That's our rights and freedoms. And Great Australian Party, and as party leader, I've got a great team, the best team in Australia. There's no question. Queen's Counsel come to us and ask for advice. Our guys are playing very much a good role in the background, and we have done all our genuine steps. We have got all our ducks in a row, and we are calling out the Governor General on the 1st of December 2021 so that he can show that he is duly appointed pursuant to law, because we had the Attorney General tell us that the Great Seal of the Commonwealth has been defaced and they can't find the instrument that defaced it. So that's a referendum, but in any event, they can't do it. So all the evidence we've got, what I achieved in Parliament, has said we have departed from the Constitution. We are a de facto republic, there is no question. Our true Parliament is what they claim to be Old Parliament House. That is protection and the Crown. If you were to go up to Australian government, that is not recognised in the Constitution. And they've obviously taken the Bill of Rights. You don't see any reference to the Crown or Westminster system up in that, in that building. So I know we're on a time. I want to wind it up, but how's the best way to put this out at layman level? Well, I've gone out and challenged at the front line. I've challenged police everywhere, and no disrespect to the police, but they are now coming forward and saying that they have been they're legally deficit when it comes to where their authority lies, especially witnessing their events on Commonwealth jurisdiction on the road. So knowledge is power. Power is what I want to give to the people through the knowledge that I learnt as a federal senator, and to my candidates to come back under the restoration of the Commonwealth, and also form a further mateship under the Commonwealth of Australia Democratic Co-op, to whereby speakers today, Glenn O'Rourke and Mike O'Neill from IMOP, and Glenn from Australian Federation Party, we're getting together for the restoration of the Commonwealth, and we're hoping that Craig Kelly with the Palmer Party and other parties are prepared to come under the co-op to get back the rights and freedoms of this great nation. So thank you. I pretty much summed it up in my 8 minutes.
Great.
Yeah.
I have a question for you. Something that I've noticed and many people have noticed is that, the Constitution is not working. And I think that's what you're talking about. If you do get some, power in Parliament, are we going to be able to make sure that doesn't happen? Are we going to be able to get a Bill of Rights in place?
Well, it already exists. We just need to go
One
back.
That works?
And the Constitution has worked. It is there. The people on the 6th of November 1999 wanted to remain under the Westminster system. The Constitution is a very, very good law that protects our rights and freedom, and done by the best framers in this nation. And I can't fault it. So that is our law. Until the people decide to have another law, we need to come back under our law, and that's the ethos of the Great Australian Party. Absolutely.
Well, I know a lot of people here agree with you. And so thank you so much for coming on to talk to my audience, and we'll see you in another episode, and good luck on your campaigning road trip that you're on.
And it's a pleasure, and just tell everyone to hold the line. If they need a document to protect their employment, they can go on to www.greataustralianparty.com.au, download a document. I think they'd be very impressed with it. It's very effective. Thank you.
That is great. Thank you so much. Have a great evening. Well, there you go. That's our first speaker. And thank you so much, Rod, for that. You've been a really strong voice during this time, and we all appreciate you really, trying to make them accountable and get us back under the Constitution properly. So next we have Michael O'Neill from Informed Medical Options Party. He's been to Melbourne. He's spoke here before. I've met Michael personally. He's just a great guy. So you'll see that for yourself. So I'm going to bring him on board right now. All right, Michael, you've got the floor.
Thank you, Monica. It's a privilege to be here. A little bit about me. I am a father of 8. I'm a grandfather of 23. I've been running my own business for about 40 years, so I've been involved in small business. And I absolutely believe in the tenets of freedom, racial freedom, religious freedom, financial freedom, and now, of course, in this day and age, very much medical freedom. I believe that there's a massive inequity in our society at the moment, where all the weight is being held, and the discourse, the political discourse in Australia has been dictated by the media in favour of huge pharmaceutical interests that have seen a section of our society completely repressed and overridden their own desires. The last bastion of freedom that any human being has is the freedom over their own body. And that's where we're losing that. And of course, if we look back in history, governments that violated bodily autonomy and bodily freedom and basically forced medication, we can think of Soviet, the USSR and the satellite communist states. We can think of Nazi Germany, North Korea. And it's sort of unconscionable that we would actually be doing this in Australia now to our citizens, because we are believing the rhetoric that's been given to us through the media, the massive propaganda campaign that's unprecedented. Goebbels would have been proud of if he would have had something as massively infiltrating and saturated at a saturation level that we are being bombarded in our society. And at the Informed Medical Options Party, we feel this has to stop. Now, the Informed Medical Options Party, we started in 2016. It was in response to what we believe was government overreach with the no jab, no pay, where it victimised and particularly poor families who made a choice not to medicate or vaccinate their children, not to be vaccinated by a medication that had no liability for the manufacturers. No liability equals no financial incentive to be careful about the product you're putting on the market. We feel that's absolutely wrong in our society. And while I was considering this, I did a couple of things back then, and one was that I went to one of Australia's leading medical scientists, worked in a very big hospital in Sydney, and I'll certainly keep him anonymous, but I arranged an appointment with him and told him that I was considering opposing mandatory vaccination for children, but I needed all the help I could get, and I could be wrong. I went to him and he said, yeah, well, that's a very good idea you've come to me. And I spent quite a bit of time with him, and I said, all I need is the science to show that they're safe, and I'm actually willing to walk away from this whole thing. I'll go away. I mean, if you can prove me wrong and show me, I'll go, and I'll accept that. But after a long time, he told me that we don't actually have that sort of evidence, and in fact, there are really no safety studies, and even conceded that he had private doubts. I was standing on the Sydney Town Hall making a protest about the same time, and a father came up to me, a man, he signalled me to come out of the crowd. I was standing on the platform speaking. There was only a small group of maybe 50 to 100 people. Had a child in the pram. The child was completely incoherent. He said, that's my son. He's 9 years old. He said he used to walk, he'd talk, he'd run, but after his vaccination, he's never spoken, he's never walked. He's never communicated a single word to us. And he said, I just want to say, could you please be our voice? We have no voice. This has happened and we're told that it's not true, but we know what's true. These were some of the things that were happening. Also having seen my own son injured from his initial vaccine. So now listen, that was my momentum. All I want, it wasn't even about the vaccine as much as about that they were going to violate my right to make a choice about the product that had obvious flaws in it. And I felt that there was no political party. In fact, I contacted political parties and no one was willing to stand up for this fight. So we and a group of people decided to put together a political party, and hence the inception of the Informed Medical Options Party. We saw it was a violation of our constitutional protections. We saw it was a violation of Section 51. We saw it was a violation of Section 116, religious freedom. And I felt that if they do this to us now, and if they so easily violate our constitutional protections, they'll eventually come for us. This won't end. This is the wedge that they've got in there. And no one spoke a word. The churches didn't speak a word. The media said nothing. The politicians were sitting on their hands, and the pharmaceutical companies have struck gold again. And of course, we now see today, if we extend it down here to 2021, we see that the very thing we were fearful of has happened. But I am so glad that people are rising up. Back then, we weren't so concerned about the vaccination. If people chose to do their due diligence and have a look and speak to their medical professional, still wanted to go ahead, that was their choice. But when they started to force us, we had a problem. When they started to force my grandchildren to be, I had a problem. When they start to force you as adults now, then we all have problems. We have seen the destruction of small business. It's unconscionable. I'm a small business owner, I understand. The biggest problem we have in small business, and this is another thing I'll be fighting for, is the government overreaching our business. So for the Informed Medical Options Party, we are very passionate on this issue, but we are very passionate about freedom. Freedom is our driving force. We just want to take our country back. We want to see accountability for all these inoculations that are being pushed on people. And I don't think that there's anything outlandish, unreal, or unreasonable about doing that. I was pleased to hear Rod just speak. And of course, Rod and I are good friends. We have the CADCO Alliance, the Commonwealth of Australia Democratic Cooperative, with Glenn O'Rourke of Australian Federation Party and the Great Australia Party. And we are working to bring about an organised front where we can foul up the system, where these major parties have had it for too long and have been sitting on their hands. They have not defended our basic human rights. They have not defended our constitutional freedoms. And for that, they are unfit to be sitting in the places that they sit. And so we want to take the House. We want to bring back to good government of ordinary people for the people. We want to see natural justice be given to every citizen. We want to see the tenets of freedom that are enshrined in our Constitution to be once again enacted, and people can feel safe in our country, know that they will be constitutionally protected, that the leaders in their country have an interest above their own political interest, and they have an interest in the rights of every citizen of Australia. We want Australia back. We miss Australia. We love Australia. It's geographically one of the most beautiful countries in the world, and it used to be constitutionally one of the safest and the most livable places in the world, and it is not. We've lost it. We want it back. So I'd like to thank you, Monica, for giving us this little platform and the opportunity to be able to talk to your supporters, and who are invariably our supporters, and wish you all the best. Thank you. God bless you all.
Well, thank you so much. I just want to say, it seems like you were on the forefront of, the name of your party is Informed Medical Options Party. And you just explained how you came to be a party. And it seems like most parties are created in distress when, something really bad is happening and you want to try and fix it. And being in the health realm of politics for so many years, and then seeing what's happened in just the last 3 months, it must be really difficult for you and your party and your staff to see the worst nightmare come to fruition.
Yes. Well, we have some wonderful people. We have a massive team, as you do too, of volunteers who are very passionate. Most of them have negative experiences about this, but I saw the writing on the wall. Honestly, I'm not a prophet at all, but I saw the writing on the wall. I thought, if they will so easily take away our constitutional protection without a whimper from all our so-called guardians of that freedom, then it's only a matter of time before they'll come for us. Yeah. And that time happened a lot quicker than I ever thought it would. In fact, it's happened in lightning speed in the last 18 months. That's got me gobsmacked.
Yeah.
It's
look, you're on the front lines, and so is everyone on this call. So thank you so much for coming on to explain. And next episode in a fortnight, we'll have a specific topic to talk about, and so you can go into a lot more detail about your party.
Well, I look forward to it, and thank you very much, Monica, and thank you for your work. It's wonderful.
Have a good evening. Thank you. Bye. Wow, it's so great to have so many influential people on one call. I mean, we have 4 party leaders on this show tonight, taking the time out to speak to you guys and to speak with me. I feel really honored to have them. You know, this is potentially the front of the peaceful revolution in Parliament. You know, I can't wait for the federal election. I mean, I'm obviously nervous about it as well, but if some of these people don't get in, we're going to be in trouble. So that's why we're all going to have to help as much as possible. I really don't think it matters necessarily which party you support, but I think everyone here watching on a Sunday night at 8 o'clock is watching because you care about this country and you think that us getting better people into Parliament is absolutely at the forefront of what we need to do. Protesting is great. It's so empowering, but really we've just got to get into Parliament so that we can change some of these things so this never happens again. That's what we need to do. So this is what this show is all about. Telling you, showing you who you can support, how you can support them. And like I said, we're going to have this show every fortnight on a Sunday. So we'll have more information for you soon about preferencing and how to campaign and other things like that as well. So anyway, without further ado, I'm going to bring Glenn O'Rourke on. He is from the Australia Federation Party. And I can't wait to see what he's got to tell you. I'm going to bring you on now. Hang on one second. Here you go. All right, Glenn, you have the floor now.
Yes, hello, Monica. I'm actually speaking to you and everyone else from my car in a central west town of New South Wales called Bogan Gate. So just an interesting thing. I'm just so thankful with what you're doing, Monica, and especially promoting multiple parties, just anyone that's standing up for the Australian people. And rather than reiterating what both Rod and Michael have just said, I will reiterate that we're all part of CADCO and we're looking forward to more parties joining CADCO. But we stand for everything that both Michael and Rod has just mentioned. But I just really wanted to speak a little bit about a Zoom meeting. I can't remember if it was last Sunday or the Sunday before, that you're involved with, Monica, and a whole cross-section of leaders, networkers and everything, from the freedom rallies, from the obviously yourself from Reignite Democracy and others. And one of the people spoke and said, we've got to find a common goal that we can all be working towards together that can unite us all despite any differences. And I had the opportunity of speaking one person after her, and I said it's a simple one. We need to all unite our people at the grassroots, and the common goal needs to be to take government at the next federal election. Now, that's only going to be achieved if the people come together and stop voting for the major coalitions of Labor, Green or Liberal Nationals. We've continued to hand these people control of this country, and it's got to the point where they no longer look after the people. They use rhetoric to say that they do, but even of the people who've chosen to get vaccinated, I believe with different surveys, you're looking at between 40 to 60% of the people who have been vaccinated are either opposed to what's happened and had just had no choice. They have been pressured, manipulated, coerced. And what's crazy is that even within some of the legal battles around the country, the judges are just saying, well, under the emergency powers, basically the chief health officers can say and do whatever they want and just override the laws. And even the treaties, because even the World Health Organization, that I'm sure so many of your viewers and supporters, Monica, and the other parties, have a lot of questions about the World Health Organization, but even they say it should be against the law to manipulate, coerce, or force people into vaccines, especially when they're not fully approved, that they're only in a trial basis. And everyone can say, oh, yes, but there's been millions of trials across the world. But the realities are that's only since they've been launched at the end of last year, beginning of this year. We're only just starting to get into the first 9-month period, 10-month period of people that have had pregnancies. And we've got no idea what the long-term effects are. And so I'm absolutely, and the people in our party and the other people we're associated with are committed to breaking the back of the two-party system, the duopoly of Labor, Liberal, and their minor parties of the Greens and Nationals, and take the government and give it back to the people. That all of the parties that I've been speaking to recently, I know that UAP is saying that. I know that IMOP, I know that the GAP, and so many of the other minor parties that we've been speaking to, those that believe that they will get their 1,500 under the new laws, and I'm not sure how many of your people are aware, but when they realised that they were losing their grip on the people, the Labor Liberal governments and opposition rushed through legislation to shut down as many minor parties as they possibly could, including laws about how they can be named, so that last Friday and Friday before last, and last Tuesday, both the DLP and Liberal Democrats were both served letters from the Electoral Commission stating that they no longer had the right to legally use their names anymore, because both the Liberal Party and the Labor Party had complained that they were using the word Liberal or Labor, regardless of the different spelling, in their names. And this is just criminal. This is two minor coalitions and that really have just completely lost focus on representing the people in Australia and only interested in saving their bacon, getting themselves re-elected or back into opposition, and making sure that the people don't have a voice, and that we can't take back democracy in this country. We can't get rid of the totalitarian rule, and that we can't see the people's voice, the people's wants, the people's needs represented in our government. But they forget one thing, is that the Australian people are resilient, and through forums like this, Monica, there is the ability to take government off these two major parties and their minions, and take government back for Australia. Then deal with the Australia Act and other legislations that have seen to undermine the original Constitution, our legal rights. And we need to have a democratic system in this country, that the governments are representative of the people again, not representative of their parties. And just committed. And it's just only going to be achieved by uniting the people, starting a grassroots, word of mouth, and even across all the minor parties, including UAP, to get all the people at the grassroots working together to take government, empowering the people and encouraging the people that there's no judgment for whether they're vaxxed or unvaxxed, that everyone that feels that the governments do not represent them, and we need to see a change if they all come together and finally change their votes. Don't worry about rusted on historical voting patterns. We just need to focus on getting rid of these totalitarian, non-democratic parties that are basically sold out to international organizations and international corporations, and take the power back for the people. And it's just what we have to do. The Federation Party is a result of now, after we merged with Ausreps, because of the fear that they may not have got their registration through in time. They had the members. We were a combination of 9 different full or part of minor parties over the last 3 or 4 years that have come together. We've got the remnants of Australian Conservatives, Federation Party, Australian Christians from Victoria, the Danig Party in South Australia, the Tasmanians for Tasmania in Tasmania, a number of state branches from Caddis Australia Party, the Country Alliance in Victoria, and the Australian Country Party, which I was the federal chair of when we merged with the remnants of Cory Bernardi's Australian Conservatives. And we're definitely working towards working with any of the other minor parties that may not maintain their registration. And we've got a whole lot of things we're talking about of how we can not only unite to take government, but also to hold up their brands moving forward so that they can ultimately achieve their re-registration beyond the federal government. So I'll just leave it there, Monica. And it's all just about uniting the people at the grassroots to fight together to take back their country and their democracy.
I agree. And, Glenn, that's what RDA is here for. We've got people on the ground ready to go. And just in general as well, there are groups all over the place. Stand in the Park. There's lots of, the Christian Mack and Graham Hood as well. Yep. So don't worry. I think your dream will be achieved in the sense that people are going to be on the ground more than ever, and they're going to enjoy it. They're actually going to want to go out and do stuff. So I hear the Labor Party has to pay for their volunteers. So we're not going to have that problem. People are going to be lining up to volunteer. So I look forward to working with you in the future. And
that's fine.
Good luck.
I can drop a quick little thing is that we've got Judy Weileman running for us over in Western Australia, and we've got Chris Neal running for us in Victoria, and that's just the start of a few. There's going to be many, many more that will be running as candidates for us. And I know that Michael and Craig and Rod have also got some fantastic candidates coming up.
Yep. I mean, just with the 4 people here, Glenn, I think we've got a really good chance. And you've obviously been working really hard. And thanks for your offer to help any parties that can't get registered. It's really terrible what you explained. I obviously knew about it. Maybe not everyone did. So thanks for explaining that. And we'll talk to you soon. Thanks for coming on.
Fantastic. Thank you so much, Monica. And thank you everyone for listening.
Bye. Well, there you go. Yes, if you weren't aware, the government, look, I'm not going to go over it. I was just about to repeat what he said. I'm not going to do that. Okay, so last and definitely not least, we have Craig Kelly from United Australia Party. I'm going to bring him on now, and he's going to tell you what he wants to say. All right.
Good day, Monica. You've got me. I'm down here in my office in Parliament House in Canberra. Parliament sits tomorrow, so we've got the last sitting week of the year this week coming up. So I'm just preparing a few things for that. Yesterday was a absolutely fantastic day in Sydney. Absolutely fantastic crowd. But what really disappoints me is when I pick up the papers and I read that the crowd was made up of Nazis. This is just a slander. It's a disgrace. They said there was 9,000 people at that protest at Sydney. Anyone that was there knows that the claim of 9,000 was just a complete farce. Anyone that looks at the photographs of the crowd knows that 9,000 was a complete farce. But the idea that these protest groups and these minor parties are somehow all Nazis, this is the slander that we are getting from the major parties. That rally in Sydney on Saturday was led by Uncle Max, a local Indigenous man from down in the Warrenora, down in my electorate. There were people there from all walks of life, from all ethnic backgrounds, from all races, from religions. There were people there from the Vietnamese community. There were people there from the Chinese community that moved to Australia. There were people there from the African community. There were people there from almost a complete representation of multicultural Australia. And to have the mainstream media misrepresent what is going on just shows you cannot trust the media today. But now, back to myself and the United Australia Party. I was elected a Liberal Member of Parliament in 2010. Successful again in 2013, 2016 and 2019 in the seat of Hughes down in the Sutherland Shire, the southern part of Sydney. But earlier this year, I became completely disillusioned with the direction that the government was heading, and that it no longer represented the values of the Liberal Party that I'd signed up to. I'd signed up to the individual freedom and individual rights and responsibilities, one of the main tenets of the party that I signed up to. And we were just walking away 100 miles an hour from these basic principles which were the fundamentals that I got elected under. And unfortunately, I got to a stage where I was continually being criticised by the Prime Minister. I was criticised by the Prime Minister in Parliament, and my position became untenable. So I thought I had no other option than to resign from the Liberal Party. I resigned from all my committee positions and sit for the rest of this parliamentary term as an independent. However, things moved on. The Liberal Party, I see, got worse and worse. They started to back these compulsory and mandatory vaccinations. They threw away the tenet of the sanctity of the doctor-patient relationship. And I thought that I had to do something a little bit more than run as an independent. And many very good people, such as Rod, came to me and said, look, why don't you come and join our party? But the reality is, to compete at this next federal election, you need massive resources. That's just, the major parties have got the game sort of stitched up, where they give themselves somewhere in excess of $100 million of taxpayers' money to finance their campaigns. Right? It's where the minor parties don't get a brass razoo from the federal government. $100 million head start, plus they get all the corporate donations. They get people paying $20,000 for a chicken dinner just to go and get access to the minister so they can have some influence over him. But so this is why it's always been so difficult for the minor parties to ever break through at a major election campaign. Well, this election is going to be different. We've got at the moment 85,000 members strong in the United Australia Party. That's growing every single day. We've got the resources through the support of Clive, the financial resources to put great teams on the ground, to have a really strong advertising campaign on TV, on radio, on billboards, on social media. We've already got 200,000 hats and T-shirts under production at the moment for to be handed out to our supporters on election day. So we are going to give this next election a real shake. And we need to do so, Monica, because the reality is our political system is broken. It's not so much our Westminster democracy that's broken. It's the Labor and Liberal Party. The internal systems are broken. They've become so factionalised that they are controlled by factional bosses that basically tell individual members of Parliament what to do. And that's not how a Westminster system is designed. It's designed that, yes, you have an opposition and a government, but that members of Parliament are meant to have some form of independence, have some form of ability to cross the floor without wanting to be a shot at dawn. But unfortunately, this is what's happened. There's been a complete breakdown of those major political parties. You cannot recognise them. Their policies are almost identical. They both agree that Australians should be coerced and their human rights are violated, to be injected, with a medical intervention against their free will. This should be, it is just so abhorrent that our attacks on our freedom should do that. And that they've reversed the concept that we're free people. Now we're only free in Australia if we submit to tell us what the government wants to do, and they give us some type of green tick on our phone that they can take away any minute from us. And those people that think that you've been vaccinated twice, that's fine. I've got my green tick. I can live life freely. Well, it won't be long until your so-called vaccine passport or your vaccine certificate will expire unless you've been injected with the third shot, and then the fourth shot, and then the fifth shot. We heard Greg Hunt in Parliament the other week say that he's ordered 150 million doses of booster shots. Now, that's 25 million. That's 6 booster shots for every man, woman, and child. So there will be a compulsory injection next year. There'll be two, one later next year, one early next year, and into 2023. They'll continue to mandate these medical interventions almost indefinitely, and unless you submit to them, all your freedoms as an Australian, and even your freedom to work in your career of choice, will be taken away. That's why at this next election it's so important that we've got to break this duopoly. We've got to work together as the minor parties. We've got to make sure that people understand how the preference system works so that we don't lose votes or votes aren't wasted. Because I think, to be honest, I think this is one of the last chances that we are going to have to break the political duopoly of the Labor and Liberal Party. The ducks are all lining up. We've just got to make sure we keep focused on what we're doing, that we're not criticising and attacking and fighting amongst each other, to the advantage of the Labor and Liberal duopoly. And that's what I'm concentrating on every single hour of every single day up until the next election.
You know how you talked about the factionalization and things like that, and this is something I didn't know until about 6 months ago, was that the Labor Party, especially if a member votes against the party line, they're basically going to lose their job next. They won't get in for pre-selection, and the Liberal Party is a little bit more lenient on it, but they don't smile at it. But
Monica, I just pick up that they were a little bit more lenient on it, and the Liberal Party had a tradition of allowing people to cross the floor. Now look at what happened to Bridget Archer last week. She was the member from Tasmania that crossed the floor on a simple proposal. All she wanted to say, we should have debate on an independent commission against corruption, a federal one. That's all she wanted to do. And look at the pressure that she was put under, and the strain. If you look at those photos of her there, the strain that she's under when she went and sat by herself. Now that shouldn't be the case in Parliament. It used to be that many of the Liberal Party members were free to cross the floor. Like Barnaby Joyce crossed the floor countless times early in his career when he was in the Senate. And now it's almost in the Liberal Party. If you cross the floor or you have an alternate opinion on something and you go against what your factional boss tells you to do, it's serious punishment. And this is why.
You know what I thought is, if that's the case, why don't we just have one Labor and one Liberal in the Parliament? I mean, they all vote the same anyway. What's the point?
That's right, Monica. That's very true. And that's
It'd be a lot
this
easier.
This next election gives us, I think, a democracy is always an emerging thing. We've got to continue to work on it, continue to protect. Because remember, democracy that you have is not the natural order of things. The natural order is despots and totalitarian regimes. That's the natural order throughout history. And this is why you've got to fight and fight and fight. You've got to continue to protect your democracy. You've got to twig it because there are just so many people that want to usurp all those powers. Yeah. And that's why having a very strong third party in the Parliament is the best way forward. It helps break the factionalisation controls, and it helps bring in more debate. We need more people with new ideas to come into this Parliament, and that will give the nation the best form of government going forward.
Great. Thank you so much for talking to us tonight, Craig, and we'll be watching you closely.
Thanks, Monica.
See ya. Well, there you have it. The first Together We Can vote the majors out in a fortnight. I think the cutoff for the next federal election registration is on the 5th of December, I believe. And so there may be a few more parties that I can invite onto the next show. But this is all I could get for tonight. But, please, if I did forget someone important, please let me know. They have to be registered, though, to be on the show, obviously, because it's not much good, supporting someone who you can't vote for. So, that would be great. So, I just want to show you that as part of the Together We Can campaign, this is part of the campaign, what we're doing this show. But I'll just show you what RDA has put together here is a website with a complete list of every advocate, every party, every person, influencer who is fighting for our rights. So you can go to underneath the initiatives tab on the website. You can see Together We Can. And if you need, there's law firms on here. There's the parties. There's, like I said, influencers and all that. So feel free to visit that page whenever you want. There's also going to be social media tiles and other things as well. I think here, so you can download them here. I think the whole point of this Together We Can campaign overall is to show the public that we're all working together, because that empowers people to work harder, but also to show our enemies that we're working together, because that's going to create a lot of pressure. I think the thing they're most fearful of is people coming together, because together well, we're stronger, right? Together we can actually stop them. And that's the whole point. I'm hoping to get this campaign around the world. There'll be a really cool video coming out soon and lots of other things all about together we can, because together we can stop them, and we will stop them. And they should be afraid, not in a peaceful way. They should be afraid that we are going to shake things up in Parliament and outside of Parliament. And so thank you so much to the 4 speakers tonight. Thank you so much for watching. These 4 people really give me hope that this next federal election is going to be very interesting to watch. And I hope all of you are inspired that we're going to need you on the ground with your passion and your vigor to actually help these parties get to the next level. Because like Craig said, the Labor and Liberal parties have basically unlimited funds to campaign, and they've always just depended on that. They've depended on the brand Liberal and Labor to get them in. They don't campaign properly. They don't go down the streets and talk to people all the time. They do it once or twice for some photo opportunities, but really they just depend on the branding to get them in. Well, that's changed now. Everyone that is listening right now, you're going to want to meet your candidates. You're going to want to ask them questions personally, because we've realized in Australia that politics affects our lives, our daily lives now in the last 2 years. I, for one, never cared about politics, and now I do. And I hope that you all do as well. And RDA and these 4 parties are going to keep everyone informed. There's going to be lots of education around preferencing, campaigning, how to make your vote count. And I hope that, and youth groups as well, and everyone needs to get involved. So this is a very hopeful sign that everyone is working together, because together we can and will absolutely get our freedoms back. Thank you so much for watching, and I'll see you next Sunday. Thank you so much.